I talked to my warehouse. I was really motivated by the sense that I don't want to know that this patient is suffering. So I took my car, I took a cold box, went to the warehouse. I drove there. Like I think the police would find me if they would do the radar control. But I went to the warehouse and I took this product from there. Well, thanks to the collaboration of the warehouse. Drove to the hospital. They opened already the door for me, like emergency. I was the emergency.
Right.
Yeah, like white lane, and it was hard just stopping in front of the surgery room to give that product to the doctor or to the nurse.
We are live, Eve.
Great.
Welcome everyone. It's a new episode of Gold Secrets. That's an open forum where we are discussing about pharma logistics, cold chain innovations, and technology in general. My name is Miguel Sirven, and today we have with us Yves Meier. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Wonderful.
Yeah, my French. It's a combination between French is the name, I guess, but the surname where it's coming from.
It's one of the most popular surnames in Switzerland.
Okay, combination between Switzerland and France.
Exactly.
Good, good. Um, we are structuring this podcast episode in three major blocks. The first one is to know you a bit better. So I've prepared uh, a list of very short questions.
Mm.
Hopefully, you should answer them with one word,
Okay.
maybe maximum one sentence, uh, just to get a feeling or who is Yves Meyer. And then on the second, then we have no constraint. Then can discuss about different topics without any restriction. And last but not least, the third step is uh, the name of the podcast is called Secrets. So we would like you to share a secret, challenge, something strange that happens in your career.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Start from the beginning. Uh, what's your name?
Eve,
Age?
between 40 and 50.
It's a secret as well.
No, I'm in my 40s, let's say.
Okay, good. Uh, Country where you live.
Switzerland.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would you like to be?
Well, in Switzerland. I'm happy here.
Okay, lucky you. You have so many options, and then you stay in the same
Yeah,
country. Are you married?
I was married.
Okay. Uh, which is your favorite cartoon character, if you have any?
Lucky Luke,
Okay, the quick
the
answer,
cowboy, the cowboy.
the cowboy. Do you prefer sea or mountain? Well,
Mountain,
living in
mountain.
Switzerland, it was an obvious answer,
Yes,
I have to say.
I'm a mountain guy.
Uh, if you could only eat one food during the rest of your life, which one will it be?
Hmm, pasta.
Pasta.
Yeah,
Okay,
pasta. There are different versions of pasta, so
it's like a safe option because you can mix it with many different topics. Okay, best book or movie that you've read or watched and you would recommend.
well, movie. I really love movies. Tom Hanks, so Forrest Gump, I loved, or Philadelphia. And books, I I like the book The Goal from Elia Goldrake. The Goal,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, good
But
recommendation.
yeah,
Uh, if you could have a superpower, which
uh-huh.
one would you choose?
Hmm. To predict the future.
Hmm, wow, Have you watched, because you like movies, have you watched Heroes?
Heroes, no.
Heroes was not a movie, it's a series, and here basically each of the characters they have a unique superpower. There was one who can predict the future.
Okay, well,
Yeah. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, uh, which one would you choose?
that's a good one. Um, well, Roger Federer.
Okay, as historical figure.
He's still alive, but I would still. I mean, he made history in tennis sport. You know,
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
like playing tennis, and so I the same age like him. So I would like to be him. In fact,
Okay. So basically, pharma and supply chain, it's just a coincidence. Your real aim in life, it's playing tennis.
no, it's sports. It's sports in
Sports.
general, and then tennis. Yeah, I like tennis. Yeah.
Okay. Did you realize if that then if we check the age of Roger Federer, then
Yes,
we
of
can.
course, of course. So that's the hint. But I'm older than him. A few months older.
Okay. If you keep giving tips, then people will figure out.
Yes.
Uh, we are we are almost done. If you could time travel to
Hmm.
which uh, area in history would you like to be?
I think in the 60s or 70s of the last century.
Is it because of the good music or?
Well, music one thing, but it was after the World War, and people were like feeling a certain security, and the economically it went also very much in one direction, and yeah, ecological factors were not yet an issue, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, not sure if
They
that's
were an
something
issue, but they were not known.
exactly. Being blind, not sure if it's something positive or
Exactly,
not.
innocent. I would say. I would call
Innocent,
it was an innocent time.
innocent. Yeah. Uh, Last one. I think that's the one that will describe you the best. What do you normally do on a Sunday evening or Sunday afternoon?
Well, I have two boys, two kids. I mean, I used to play soccer with them, or I do cycling, or I just well enjoy with a glass of wine the balcony.
Very good. Thank you. That's you answer all the questions. Very good, I would say. And I have a better idea. I'm only, I mean, being Spanish, I would rather prefer Rafa Nadal instead of Roger Federer, but I understand your choice as well. And I also like cycling. So it's actually my favorite sport.
Okay.
Also because of my knees, I'm getting older. Not on my 40s yet, I'm on my 30s, let's say, uh, late 30s. And my knees are cramping a bit. So cycling, it's a safe sport for me now. All right, so back to business now. We have a much better idea about you. Eve, thank you for sharing. Um, why do you think you were invited, or why Yves Meier is relevant people to be interviewed in Gold Secrets podcast? Why do you think we interviewed?
Yeah. Well, I think your
No
team
clue.
was looking on my LinkedIn page and saw that I worked in pharma and medtech, where I was responsible for moving goods, temperature controlled goods like aortic valve prostheses or dermal filler products or pharmaceutical products, which are transported in a certain temperature range. And I think, well, I don't know whether it makes me a specialist, but I have over the years, let's say, acquired some knowledge, and I was actually happy that you consider me a specialist. So,
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
actually a topic I'm quite curious in, and I was also doing some studies in this direction to learn a bit more about the technologies, options, and to see where the industry could move with cold chain transportation.
Yeah, very interesting topic. That's the main reason why we are creating this podcast, talking about cold chain and pharma distribution. Absolutely. And if you if you can, if you have to describe yourself, uh, how would you do it? I mean, what are you good at, or what's your background? Can you give us a bit of a flavor about your professional career?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I started my professional career in pharma, uh, completely not in supply chain. It was in communication and regulatory affairs, so completely different sector. But I was always a curious person, you know, always eager to learn and interested in different fields. So I started there, and then thanks to my language knowledge, because I speak around 5 languages quite fluently, I was then moving into customer care. So I was in a customer care role for many years in pharma and agrochemical. And there I could, yeah, understand customer needs. I also work with transport companies and also with salespeople. You know, it was quite a coordination function. And after some years, I well developed into a people management role, so that I could manage a team, and that's where I was really actually finding my passion to work with people directly, coach them, develop them, but then also on the same time, yeah, with senior people, you know, to convince them to learn what they need, what the way they speak, and yeah, drive innovation as well, drive innovation in the companies I worked for, to facilitate the process, to lower costs, you know, to reduce costs. And that was actually always a motor of myself, to, you know, to challenge every day the status quo, to
Mhm.
challenge the way we do things. Whether it was with my team, I always told them, don't accept a no, try to formulate or do it differently, but try to challenge the processes, because that's the way we can improve, and that's the way we will be successful in the future. And yeah, it's important that I do it together with people. You know, I'm a big fan of win-win solutions, and not that
Mhm.
I win and the others have to lose. And that's why also in cold chain logistics, it's important that if we do solutions, or we try to find solutions, it's a solution which works for the customers, but also for the logistics provider and for the company supplying. And there, I would say it's my values, you know, in a win-win logic, together with people, collaborative approach, but also having fun. You know, I'm maybe you found out a little bit. I like also to have fun, you know, and fun is important driver at work. You know, you need to get up in the morning with a certain logic
With a
why you go
patient.
to work, and passion, you know. And supply chain is really my passion, you know, my passion, and I love it because every day is different. And in logistics, every day can be a drama. But to anticipate the drama, or to, let's say, protect you, um, cold chain transportation can be supported by, for example, some technology. You know, we'll maybe speak about it afterwards. But it's exactly that. You know, supply chain um, is moving every day. Every day, a company with products has a supply chain alive. And I always say to my teams, you know, a supply chain without an issue is a supply chain of a dead company, because
Yeah.
you have definitely effects or influences from suppliers, from natural circumstances, whether it's in logistics, whether it's on the shortages, whether it might be international conflicts or whatever it might be. But you have never a day which is like the day before, and that makes it interesting. And you need to be agile for that. You need to be a
Mhm.
person who gets up in the morning ready for, well, ready for the combat, you
For
know, ready
everything,
for battle,
ready for the
ready for
unknown.
rumble, you know. And that's the thing. You need to be really yeah, have this mindset, otherwise you will be always under pressure and stressed in supply chain, and then the resilience is not the best anymore.
There is one thing that you mentioned that at the beginning is I like challenging the status quo.
Yes.
And what's your experience challenging the status quo, especially in the pharma sector,
Mhm.
when it's a quite of an industry very adverse to risk, taking new risk? It's more. conservative in that approach. So how your approach to innovation, gathering new technology fits with the reality of the pharma industry itself.
Well, I've followed a lot of conversation, a lot of I mean, I was at events and fairs where people speak about innovation, like technological innovation. You know, like AI is all over the place, digital twins, and you can call it whatever you want. But the thing is, these are just the top of the iceberg. The innovation needs also to start with the mindset of the people. I mean that even in a team you need to have people ready for innovation, or you need to grow them into this mood, you know, like to have a change management approach. And then also the top senior management, they need to understand that, of course, you can challenge everyday small things. You don't need to have this transformation style challenges. You can go for that, but this takes more time. But even if you do small little adaptations in the processes, way you do communication wise, for example, or system wise, you gain more and more trust in the way you're thinking and approaching challenges.
Mhm,
And then once you have your reputation or your trust from the organization, then you can go for a bigger change, you know, like bigger change and also bigger transformation, really to go, for example, for a digital mode, you know, instead of having Excel, you go more in a digitalized version, you know, like
mhm,
in planning, for example. Or we will speak about it also in the cold chain, in, for example, data loggers, to use the connected data logger instead of just a USB data logger, which is passive, you know, to have such a mindset and also tell the people cost is an important factor. It's always an important factor. But I like to say or like to describe it, there is a triple bottom line, you know. The triple bottom line is cost, it's ecological factor, but it's also the human factor. And the human factor has also a certain cost, because if you overload your people constantly by not changing, you will lose them and you need to replace them or you need to add more people. Ecological has also a price or a cost if you're not investing, whether it's regulatory, whether it's disposal of material and you need to pay extra fees. So there are factors beyond just the pure investment costs if you're talking about the real investment. But few changes that can be without costs. You know, it can just be in the way you do a process. You do a let's say a brainstorming with your team, how you approach a certain customer, for example, or how
mhm,
you gather information. And today we have also AI helping us. I mean, ChatGPT or other platforms all over the place, they are sometimes for free and they can give you an input how you can approach a certain situation. So I would say there is no limits. You need just to unleash the limits of yourself, you know, and that's why I say challenge your status quo every day. And well, don't be afraid. Maybe sometimes you don't make yourself friends, but you need to go further, because in the long run it's the right decision. Because if you're not transforming or changing, you will be changed as a company, as a team, or as an individual.
I couldn't agree more. It's not really a technological challenge. So the technology it's already there. So it's more changing people's mindset and be open for change, and it's quite human also being reluctant for changes. We have been doing that for so many years. Why do we need to do it differently? It works. We have it covered. Those are the kind of mindset that we need to, let's say, try to change. And that's why I also like your approach, working with people, with senior people, and try to mm, convince them somehow about the importance for the innovation and apply new technologies which are already out there in the market. Because not taking them and not using them is really not an option anymore.
Exactly.
So yeah. Uh, okay, and which are the major innovations in terms of supply chain? you have worked in different companies,
Mhm.
pharma, medical devices. First of all, is there a significant difference in between pharma distribution and medical devices distribution, or it's quite similar? And which are the major innovations that
Mm.
that maybe you as an innovator driver, you implemented in any of those companies?
Yeah, I mean the pharma and medical device industry, they are usually using temperature controlled transportation. Because medical device, I worked in a company. They produced aortic valve replacements. So one device was like several thousand francs or dollars. While you have in pharma, you can have a 100,000 products which have the same price, but still needs to be transported in a temperature controlled environment. So it can be one device or 100,000 boxes, but you still need to keep the temperature regulated because you're working in regulated industries where you have notified bodies checking that your documents are clean, that your transportation data is clean, so the products are released to the market safely. Whether it's medical device, which is inside the patient usually, if a class 3 product goes inside the patient, or whether it's a pill or an injectable, it goes into a patient. So it's not like you're sending a TV or let's say a mobile phone from A to B. It's really something which could harm if it's not safely stored or safely transported. And speaking about innovation, I mean, I think both industries are innovation drivers because, on one hand, innovation drivers because they have money. Let's say the pharma and the medtech industry have money. But on the other
Clear
hand,
requirement.
yeah, well, the margins are still good for some companies. Um, but on the other hand, the opportunities are so big that some companies they are going 360. They drive every innovation possible. They buy all the fancy tools, and then they get lost. Because as we spoke before, you need also to take the people and the processes with you. It should be the other way around. You should not speak about technology first. You should speak about people and processes, and last step, the technology supporting those two
Mhm.
things. And many companies with a bit too much money, they do the other way around, and then they are surprised that it's not a success. But what I did in two companies was, it's not like super duper innovation, but it's moving from manual order entry to EDI, or working with platforms, to give the customer actually the hand on the order entry, because with electronic data interchange, the data flows directly into ERP system without manual interaction, and that makes it quicker and safer because you have less mistakes. So this, for example. Then also what I had an opportunity to be part of was an implementation of an advanced planning system.
Okay.
Working on Excel
Mhm.
um, is
Excel
work
as a
is
advanced planning
excellent is
tool
excellent for small companies, but when you're growing and you have more geographies, more products, you're adding more and more complexity to your supply chain. Excel
and
is not
manageable.
excellent anymore. So that's why I called always, without saying that I want to move to a specific technology, but I always said I want to move from Excel to excellence. And excellence is an open term. It can mean you update your Excel file to optimize it with some macros or with some SQLs or some specific Power BI reports or Tableau reports, whatever you want to do it to make it more fancy. But at the end of the day, it needs to fit your company's purpose, your company's processes. And the process I was in, it was in a bigger company because my company was acquired by a big medical device company. So there we were basically imposed to implement
Mhm.
an APS. And yes, an APS, an advanced planning system, is great. It gives a lot of opportunities. It's like you have an SUV for yourself. You have a lot of space, you have a lot of stuff to do, but sometimes you don't need it. But once maybe you need it, and then you have the space. If you have an Excel, you cannot make a from a I don't know, from a Volkswagen an SUV. That's not possible. So that's why it's good to have that horsepower in your systems and to learn step by step to use it. And that was actually quite nice. And on the last, well, in my last company, which I left the end of February, the pharmaceutical company, we were about to innovate the footprint, let's say. We had a 3PL partner, an old-fashioned 3PL partner using really the manual systems, manually packaging, and also standard cardboard boxes with a lot of filling material, and the space was limited. So we decided to 2 years ago, when I took over the role, we decided to move to a modern 3PL with more automation, with reusable uh, plastic boxes, which are in a circular flow, are reused, and also, let's say, shared transportation, that you
Mhm.
have more groupage, more possibility to, yeah, to reduce your CO2 footprint, because that's in a company which thinks first about the money, about the benefits. Smaller companies usually think like this because they need to survive. They don't think about the circularity of the process, about the CO2 effects. But in the future, in the near future, on European level or also in Swiss level, the implementation of rules or the impose some certain rules will be imposed, that you cannot do business or win tenders if you don't have a certain CO2 footprint or a certain CO2 report. So that's
Yeah.
why I was also anticipating that for that specific company to really work scalable, that there is enough space, the processes are more automatized, so we could win also on the lead times and also on the costs, because that's what I said. In the future, the future is now, but it will be much more demanding from the legal side. And we saw it already. For certain tenders, you need to provide reports: how much water you consume, how much electricity you consume. And if you're a medium-sized company, sometimes this is not the top priority, but it will
You just
limit
don't
your.
have it. You have not invested any resources on gathering
Exactly.
those reports, and then you are out of the equation for those tenders.
Exactly, exactly. And that's why, as a supply chain professional, you need to be also proactive, anticipating trends, and thinking about what is the next direction the industry or governments go. Because otherwise, the day it will be implemented and you're even not thinking about it, you will be overtaken by the competitors, and then you can have the most cheap product if you at the end you cannot launch it in a country anymore because you have not the certain papers.
Yeah,
That's a pity.
absolutely. It's again back to the three different perspectives where we should look at the solution: the cost, the impact, and the people. It's
Exactly.
actually I may stole your approach to these three angles. I like that approach, so I may use it also internally. And you mentioned about the EDI connection, EDI connection for data entry. You mentioned about circularity and process optimization. So basically, those are quite trending topics right now because about uh, automating data entry is about exchanging communication or exchanging information between different platforms. It
Hmm.
can be done via a EDI, API, whatever. There are multiple
Hmm.
ways to share that information, but it's especially when we are talking about supply chain, it's not only about moving product from A to B, it's also moving or transporting the information associated to that product from A to B. If I receive a medicine without the associated data related to that product, it's useless. I can simply not use it because most of the time we are talking about serialized products
Exactly.
or temperature sensitive that we need to keep a registration of that. So it's the logistic flow, but also the data flow that goes together with with the product. And if I can share one experience, especially talking about logistics, there are quite well-defined standards in terms of EDI connection for logistic processes. Actually, if you go directly to AWS, there is a whole framework about EDI integrations, which are, let's say, standard,
Hmm.
and they have a dedicated service to that for this being implemented. But there are some niche verticals, like for instance, cold chain, where there is no such integration. So every provider or every IoT manufacturer or every logistic company or every is doing, let's say, their own way. So they are
Exactly.
creating their own tracking system and so on.
Exactly. This is a
Uh,
problem, huh, Miguel? This is a real problem because when let's take the data loggers, the just the USB data loggers.
mhm,
Because I spoke to this, well, to the future 3PL, which the company was moving to. They have more than 100 pharma partners, like pharmaceutical companies. And I asked them, how many of your 100, more than 100 pharma partners is using reusable uh, data loggers? Reusable data loggers, which have a certain data transmission via cloud, through a
mhm.
gateway, cloud, automatically transmitting the data on the transport, but also at arrival, so that the logistics people don't need to take the data
Plug
logger
it
and
in
plug it
into
in the
the lab.
computer, download it, send it via mail to whatever company of these 100 companies. They said to me, one company was testing. And I was actually, with my company, I was the second one giving them the idea and
Early
even
adopter.
showing these two different suppliers or two different options, because I was so much into that technology that I did wanted to do a pilot, or I did a pilot, and also providing two solution providers an opportunity to test. So they were quite interested. Imagine a 3PL receiving from 100 companies daily products, 1 to 2 data loggers per pallet. The amount of data loggers they have to unload or to read, and then to throw away and to dispose, because companies are very lazy in the sense they use single use USB
Mhm.
data loggers. Why single use? Because you don't need to organize the return.
Reverse logistics is always a pain.
They're cheap, but they have all the same issue. They are reactive. You don't find out that you had an issue during the transportation until the nice logistics guy in the 3PL unloads it, or unloads the product, unload the data logger, plugs it in the computer, doesn't understand anything because it's not supposed to interpret the data, sends it via an email to the
To
company, and then
quality,
maybe a quality person gets the mail Friday evening or whenever, and you can imagine it waits until Monday morning, and then only you find out, oops, the products are not in a good state. So you lose
and,
time to
and it
ship.
stock gets blocked until
Stock
someone
gets
in quality
blocked. You
release it.
you cannot release it. You cannot send the replacement goods if there is any concern. And that's actually happened when we shipped products to the Middle East, because in my company, my former company, we used to export a lot to the Middle East,
Uh-huh.
and it's a hot area, like hot temperature wise. So you have 40 degrees in summertime, and the most problematic zone is not the country itself, it's the airport, it's the tarmac. Goods arrive, even if you book a temperature controlled transportation with the airlines, the tarmac is the well is the place where you have the most excursions. And
Mhm.
you can leverage it, or protect it with special envirotainers, or locally some containers, but that's expensive. And most of the time, these temperature excursions are very short, and you can release the products after still, because there are stability data which can support it. But what you don't have is the time, because the goods arrive maybe a week later at the destination, and
Mhm.
then the guy in the destination is maybe your agent or your customer, sends back the data maybe with a delay to you as a quality, as the manufacturing company and as the license owner or whatever, the producer, and you need to release it. But you lose like 1 week, maybe 1.5 week, and that's afterwards also can be a risk for patients. Imagine the product is very urgent. Well, we saw it in COVID, when the
Yeah.
vaccines were super urgent and everything had to be shipped. If you have a delay of 1 2 weeks, well, that can be life threatening, and um, that's why I tested and I worked closely with companies providing these devices. First of all, not USB. Second, cloud based, so that you have the data if you want live during the transportation, because through gateways or through GPS trackers together with the device, they transmit the data, and you
Mhm.
are independent from the logistics personnel at the warehouses, and even the um, the transportation companies. You can control them. You know why the good went, let's say, from A via C to D, and then only it arrived at B. So that's also to optimize your routes and to control your network. So it's localization, it's the temperature control. You're up to date. You're managing your thing. You're not reacting. And last but not least, and that's what I want to come to the end with that point. You have also the predictive analytics with softwares in the background. More and more companies are working with AI, but also with, let's say, risk management protocols, where such tools, as the data is flowing into the cloud, all is going through the same cloud. You can also use then the predictive analytics opportunities and be proactive, anticipate, communicate, and that's where I see a big chance for pharma, for medtech, but also for other industries maybe who want to be proactive, um, to go a step further and work with I repeat it, with the triple button line. You really get things much smoother, and the positive effect is that those loggers are more and more reusable.
Mhm.
Reusable, and when I used 10 years ago reusable loggers, that was always an issue because we lost those loggers. We didn't know where they are. They got lost somewhere in the chain, and they were expensive. They were like 5 times more expensive than a single use. With this new technology of loggers, as they have
The
um,
GPS
tracking,
connectivity, so you know where
yeah,
they
you
are
know where
located.
they are, and you can even organize it through a simple return process, because they are usually without lithium. But there are not lithium batteries in there,
Mhm.
so you can put them in an envelope, return them via, I don't know, via UPS or TNT, DHL, whatever supplier. So it's much easier, and they don't cost so much. That was the biggest surprise when I compared the costs of a USB, a cheap USB data logger made in China versus, for example, the two devices I tested were Swiss made. They were cheaper or the same price, and that's that advantage of the growing or the progress of
Technology is
technology.
evolving. At some point,
The
as
costs
far as
go down.
technology evolves, the cost goes down.
They go
Absolutely.
down. That's normal, and that's where people should not, or people, companies should not be lazy and close the eyes and say, okay, we keep the USB data loggers, the single use, because that's the easiest one. No, it's not the easiest one. It's actually harming costs indirectly.
Actually, I would like to split because we touch upon multiple topics in the last. I would like to split it because
Mhm.
it's all connected. It's all connected, but actually, I see the difference between um, connected devices versus non-connected devices.
Yeah.
Then we have the operational impact that those connected devices may have, and also the circularity related to this. And it's all connected, but it's not exactly the same. What I mean, first step is we may have reusable USB loggers. There is no technical limitation for that.
No,
It's
it exists already. Yeah.
so it's a connected versus non-connected. In my opinion, the impact is in the operational efficiency. that's where the impact is, being proactive, not wasting time, avoid the stock to get blocked in the warehouse waiting for QI release that may take a couple of days, etc. Then we have the circularity, because they are and let's make the assumption that all the reusable devices are IoT connected, which is okay, the most standard scenario. Um, this circularity, it's also, so far, it's also not very efficient, in my opinion. Why I mean that? Um, Imagine that you are a 3PL. You are an ideal scenario. You are the 3PL, and you are getting IoT devices from 100 companies. How will you organize the reverse logistics of those 100 different companies with different vendor providers? Is each sensor provider picking up their own to refurbish, recalibrate, and so on? So it's there. I mean, I don't have the full answer at this stage, to be honest. But I also see some room for improvement in that area, which is, I mean, it's not saying go with IoT and all problems are solved. I think we need to also think about the circularity, how make that circularity and the CO2 emissions, in fact, as well, how those reverse logistics can be efficient enough that it pays off, and then we link it with the cost variable, that those reverse logistics are uh, cost effective in terms of CO2, in terms of cost itself of the reverse logistics, that we can reuse the materials for a second time or third time, whatever.
No, you're right. I mean, it's clear that we are not yet there. We are not yet there, and it takes additional steps to create the circularity. But there is also an opportunity. If you have, let's say, five different providers, five different software platforms or whatever, that you have like well, that it could be created like a network where these five platforms get summarized, like that you have one
Integrated.
specific system or let's say industry platform where different providers can connect, and then you find the data there. This way you could also use the loggers, or a 3PL could use whatever logger they have. If they have five different providers, they use the provider A, B, C. It doesn't matter, because at the end the final company will see the data in the major platform. Even if you have sub platforms, and in my understanding, well, this is an innovation. It's maybe a dream, but on the other hand, without a regulation from outside, without pressure from
Mhm.
let's say from regulatory side or from government side, companies will always find a reason not to move forward. If it's not a cost factor, and cost, we said yes, it can be cheaper, but on the other hand, if you need to organize yourself, the return, and then it might be complicated, then of course it might look much more expensive. But otherwise, if really the company is required or pushed by some incentives or by some regulations, like that could help, to advance a whole system industry-wise, to organize. Because I tried as well to implement reusable loggers, our selected system, to some contract manufacturers, because we worked with a lot of
Okay,
contract manufacturers.
seamless.
So we proposed them to send our loggers by a certain amount of loggers to send them. They refused. Of course, they refused, because they used to buy in big bulks single-use data loggers for themselves, for all the companies,
But
and
you
it's
were
also a winning
providing those
business for
loggers.
them. Sorry.
You were providing the loggers to them. So why did they refuse?
Well, they refuse because in their process, it's easier to take one of their cheap USB data loggers they bought somewhere in China and invoice those data loggers to the client with a margin of 30 to 60%. It's not
Okay.
it's not actually very known, but many of those contract manufacturers do this, like additional service or additional costs. And even if you have an ex works term, it's easier, of course, if you're a buying company that they put a data logger. But imagine you have like 100 shipments, and every time they invoice you a data logger on top with 30 to 60% margin. Well, it makes a difference for the company shipping, but for you, at the end of the day, it makes also a difference, and that's a bit it's a bit a hidden problematic. But I would say of the 10 companies I reached out to send our loggers, 8 said no, 2 said yes. So it's already a little, success. If you speak with two,
For
you can sell a success story afterwards, and one success story follows another, and that's we started with change management. Companies need
Mhm.
also to change in their mindset, and that's where I wanted to go to step by step grow this idea and yeah, speak to 3PL providers about it, because their pressure is also coming from 3PL providers. They will certainly invoice them more and more to companies using USB single devices, because they need to dispose it, they need to unload it. So if they make it very expensive for the shipping companies, it might be more interesting to reuse.
the incentive will be there, not
Yes,
to manage the disposable devices. Absolutely. I was curious. You mentioned that you started a pilot. Can you share which was the outcome, or did you extracted any conclusion out of this pilot? You mentioned that right now with the CMOs is 8 out of 10, but which was the general conclusion? If that's something that you can share.
yeah, I can share it. It's unfortunate that I left the company 1.5 months ago before I really could finalize the pilot. But what I did in the 6 months we had the pilot, it was really clear. Again, triple bottom line. The cost wise, the devices were cheaper. So I already could convince the management to do the pilot, because I made like, okay, we
Easy
buy
reasoning.
10,000 USB data loggers, we buy 10,000 reusable devices. The 10,000 reusable devices will last for 2 or 3 years. The USB data log will be 1 year. So the math is very easy, and the price uh, was really similar, or similar, but with the longer range of reusing the devices, you will gain. Second, the warehouse personnel, they loved it. Because one of the devices you could just put in the box, and the gateway read the data logger. So there was no risk, I forgot to start the logger by pressing a button, or I pressed twice the button. Oh, by mistake I stopped again. And no, and then finally the goods arrive, and there was no data recorded. That all stress is not there anymore. And they are smaller, they're smaller, so you
Mhm.
could put them in the boxes directly. You don't need to attach them around or squeeze them. So also from the management point of view, it was easier. And last but not least, I mean, I felt, or my team felt, good in the sense, because when you compare a logger, a USB logger, which has this kind of size and like the large like this, like a mini computer, and the two
Mhm.
devices we used were like a size of this, or even a credit card type of size, so
Yeah.
really flat. You hardly felt them, and that gives also a visual sense of innovation, and that was positive from for the team, and we were about to well to actually to finalize the pilot last month, and then to roll it out to all the shipments, because we used only some lanes, some lanes where we had really the control, but then we wanted to really extend it to all the lanes outbound, because inbound, as I said, you need to have the CMOs, you need to have your suppliers on board, otherwise it doesn't work. But the goal at the end would be to have a 100% network where you have all your loggers, you know where they are, all the shipments, you know that your CMO shipped the product, so you can expect that it arrives today, tomorrow. So you have also for your planification
It's the
of the
end-to-end
inbound flow.
visibility of your entire supply chain
Exactly,
network.
exactly. Imagine also for the 3PL. Today, every company books slots in a cargo system, to have a slot to unload the product. If you know today
Transporion system.
you have your menu of goods flowing in today, because you have an ETA. You could download that list. You don't need to have the companies 50% of the time they forget to book the arrival, because they use a transport company. but that are ideas how you could leverage that technology, not only as a pharma or medical device company, but also as a transport, as a warehouse, and as a shipping company.
It's all about data sharing and making data available for all the different stakeholders in the supply chain. Everyone will benefit. And if I can share a bit of my frustration is that everyone is so conservative about this data sharing. This is my data. I don't want to share it. Why do you need this data? While everything would be 10 times easier if there is a fluent communication and data sharing.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
and then we can even think about an AI doing the smart slot allocation based on the ETA and position coming from the IoT devices. You know that
It
this
will
track
come.
is
It will come. Sooner or later it will come because the costs will be a pressure, regulation will be a pressure point, and the competition. If you have like one or two companies doing it, they will be a leader.
yeah.
Look, like Amazon. Amazon, when they did what they do today, all the different platforms they were under pressure, to be more innovative, or it's called Tesla, even if I don't like it, but you know, but still they pushed the car market, the electric car market, to a next level because you have to be innovative to create more innovation behind.
No, absolutely. And now you see on the Amazon app, you see it's two in 5 minutes you will get your order. So that's great. So
Exactly.
and sometimes we make a fake distinction between B2B and B2C, when actually behind every company there is people behind it. So it's always a recurrent discussion I have also with my team. Why shall we make the distinction between B2B and B2C in terms of features of the product or in terms of functionalities? Of
Mhm.
course, the approach is way different, but in terms of functionalities, you are there is no company itself using any tool. There is always people behind the company using the tool.
Yeah,
So the whatever tool, whatever functionality should be targeted to the people. So if it's working good for B2C, should we must be able to translate it to a B2B environment. So
every
the
C can be a B, and a B can be a C because at the end of the day, as a business, you are also a customer.
yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely. And you mentioned a couple of times about the regulatory pressures that sooner or later that may come. Uh, on the last few weeks, we have been hearing a lot about the new Trump administration and which are the changes that they may have, especially on the pharma, cutting down costs on programs like Gavi, Vaccine Alliance, and so on.
And tariffs.
Yeah, tariffs as well. Is that could potentially that create any uh, constraint in the supply chain of multinational pharma companies or distribution of medicines around the world?
I mean, the thing is that the Trump administration, I need to be careful what I say, but they are unpredictable. Today they say this, tomorrow they say that. We knew that. It's not something. Supply chains should be too much surprise because there was a first term of his administration. It was similar. Now he's back for another 4 years, and then it will change again. But that's supply chain. It needs to adapt to the situation, and probably the best companies already proactively were creating some, let's say, stocks, maybe stocks in some fields. If we call the tariffs, we saw that big pharma they were shipping like crazy just before the tariffs were implemented. Goods to the U.S. to have more room for yeah to act, because when you have no time to act you need to react, and that becomes expensive.
Mhm.
But if you speak about regulations and pressure from regulations in pharma, especially, you have the serialization aspect, and in the Middle East, where I worked for, there is even the aggregation aspect. So you have
Mhm.
serialization and the
Okay.
aggregation, and this creates additional complexity. for the producing companies, but also for the receiving agents or pharmacies, hospitals to manage that aspect or the data, because there is no I don't want to do it. You need to do it. The pressure is there, so you need to work with data. You need to be efficient working with data. You need to have connected data with your providers, service providers, transportation companies, customers, regulatory bodies. So this creates a new dynamic, and this dynamic can be an innovation driver or will be an innovation driver in my eyes. And what we see is always when you have disruptions historically. Originally I'm a historian. I studied history.
Yeah,
So
I saw it.
what you see, yeah, what you see when you have disruptions or revolutions or whatever crisis, these are boosts for innovation.
Mhm.
Human being or work like this when it's too comfy and too we are too lazy,
Calm
too chill.
down. Yeah.
As soon as there are crises, um, we can innovate. We
Yeah.
see
If
with
it's too chill, there is no reason
remote
for change.
home office, remote working. It was not possible before. Now everything is possible. So
Mm.
that's a bit the human mindset as well. That such a Trump administration, as good or bad it might be, it can be an innovator or pressure to innovate even quicker and accept tools which might be, or they are too sensitive or they are too expensive or too complicated. But if you don't do it, you're even not there anymore. So,
Yeah. So thank you, Trump. Can be a driver for innovation.
well, don't put this on the newspaper, but yeah.
Uh, Wow, it's almost 1 hour. I wouldn't like to finish without talking briefly about AI and how you think that can be impacting the processes. We kind of cover it somehow, but I would like to specifically ask you something that we are creating a true call. It's not launched yet. We are under construction. Um, but when talking with our customers, most of them they say, I would expect from a company which is monitoring our shipments in terms of location, temperature, etc., be able to react proactively. So having kind of a layer for direct intervention. So if there is, I don't want you to call me, look, there is a temperature anomaly. I want you to solve it, how to react to that. And we are creating an AI agent to being able at the end, I mean, as a software platform, we cannot take the track and plug it in again,
Yeah.
but we can coordinate and make the data flow consistent between the different people who is involved in that. Do you feel that, because it's also quite sensitive information. So how do you balance out innovation, cost efficiency versus sensitive data with the current status or the current stage of the and the maturity of the technology itself? I know it's not an easy question.
Hmm?
And there is no right or wrong
No,
answer.
no,
We
of
are
course. I mean, I've followed AI quite closely in the last few months, and because as a supply chain professional, you need to update yourself. You need to be aware what are the trends in the business. And yeah, I heard about this, and I saw some examples of agents, automatically providing solutions. And I think today it's about trust. You need to trust that AI, whether it's structure or via machine learning, that you evolves constantly the models and the way the responses are given, um, that there are options and they should be tested, um, pilots, like as I said before, that you let the machine do the decision and you have a human being,
on
let's
our
say
side.
confirmation, like the approval, that you have the proposal and that you have the approval step. And through a certain pilot period for standard, let's say, procedures, and we see it very often now with phone companies or other customer service, that if you have standard questions, things go in a standard way. As soon as you have an extraordinary or a unique question, then the human being is coming into the game, because human being is still capable of being creative, innovative, without having a certain input from a protocol. But yeah, for sure, for let's say for standard issues or standard procedures, I would rather support that, because then the human side, the human beings, the teams, they can focus like an Pareto on the 20% which are really the issues, and
Issues
where
which
they
are
need
not
to
easily
focus
solved.
and can go quality wise in it, and be an added value for the customer, or for the business, or for the supplier, whoever is the stakeholder, because that's then the front office approach. You can manage the back office approach via AI or Gen AI, much through supported by machine learning, but the front office, the human interaction, whether it's with a supplier, whether it's with customers, it should still be humanized, or still have a certain human approach, because at least in the next few years, we all know the
Things are
futuristic
just moving
movies. Maybe
quite
in
rapidly.
20 years you have no human beings anymore, and they're only machines. But let's not hope for that. But still, what I said, the support of AI is endless. You can go in many direction, but, and crucial in all that, without using the buzzwords and speaking only about AI, you need to have the right foundations, meaning the processes, your data needs to be clean, needs to be safe, needs
Structure.
to be ethically controlled, because otherwise AI, yeah, it's just providing wrong signals. You cannot request AI to correct your mess, and that's the key thing. Without having the clean data, you will not be successful with AI.
When I started working in data, it was 15 years ago. One of the first lessons that I learned was it's not very nice, but I think we can do it. When shit comes in, shit comes out,
Yeah, CISO.
and it has not changed even with AI. So that's still a valid quote.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly.
Uh, we are getting to the end of our conversation, but now it's a well, I wouldn't say the most interesting, but the final cherry on the cake. Um, the, the the name of this podcast is called Secrets. Uh, so I would like you, if possible, to share with the audience uh, any major challenge that you overcome, or some creative solutions that you implemented, but something specific, like so the first thing that came to your mind, let's say, okay, that was a major challenge and we were able to overcome it, or not, maybe not. It was a failure. Failure is also acceptable sometimes. Um, that you can share with the audience, because hopefully we can take some learning from there as well.
At the end of the day, especially in pharma or in medical device, you serve a patient, and serve a patient. You have a product, of course. You want to sell the product, but at the end, you need to have this patient mindset or this customer mindset. Even if you're a director or head of the supply chain, you're an employee who serves for the patient. And I remember a time when, we had this fancy system, we had everything in place, we had stock, we had forecasts, everything. But at the end of the day, um, a patient turned to be, there in medical device, that it was a certain size for a heart valve. They were scheduled for a certain size of a heart valve, and the stock was there, but the hospital made a mistake, and they didn't order the other size, and um, the, the surgery was scheduled 2 hours from that moment they found out. And
Wow.
they called us at that time. My team was like, it's not possible to send another product. It takes 24 hours. So what I did, I said, okay, I checked the system, whether we have stock. I talked to my warehouse. I was really motivated by the sense that I don't want to know that this patient is suffering. So I took my car, I took a cold box, went to the warehouse, I drove there like I don't, I think the police would find me if they would do the radar control. But I went to the warehouse and I took this product from there. Well, thanks to the collaboration of the warehouse. Drove to the hospital. They opened already the door for me, like emergency. I was the emergency.
Very
Yeah, like white lane, and I was hard just stopping in front of the surgery room to give that product to the doctor or to the nurse, and that was actually, well, basic supply chain, really basic supply chain. But you see
an
exactly
impactful
what you're
one.
doing it because you have a direct impact. And even I remember my car was a bit too small, so I had to be innovative to put the product. It was a catheter which was like 2 meters long, a bit in my car, it's not squeeze, but I had to lower the seats, and it was really like if the police stopped me, really it was not safe in this sense. But at the end of the day, the patient had his surgery, everything was successful, and I could go home in the evening with a good feeling. And that's we can speak about data, we can speak about predictive analytics, but at the end of the day, things can go wrong, and there you need to be with a mindset of a doer, adaptable or flexible, agile, and yeah, make your hand dirty, and not dirty in the sense that
No,
they
no,
were
no.
really dirty, but you really go and
Hands
do
on,
it.
hands on.
Yeah, AI can help for a lot of things, but you need to be still hands-on, and that's the beauty of supply chain, I would say.
Wow, Eve, wonderful story. I love it, honestly. Very good one. Uh, we can close here. I hope you had a good time with us.
I hope it was interesting for you as well.
Yeah, yeah, we learn a lot, and hopefully the audience will also learn about your experiences and insights. So thank you for joining. It was a great pleasure. See
Thank
you
you very
soon.
much for your time. Bye.
Ciao.